How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Yudalad, Daf 14 of Masechta Shevuos. Friends, yesterday was a long daf, an hour. Well, I imagine today's going to be shorter. Anyways, we're going to start, but thank you for all, sticking with me yesterday. I know we did a lot, but I just didn't really see a good place to kind of stop. Otherwise we'd literally be starting like right in the middle right now. So we finished the first parak of Masechta Shevuos, and now we're starting the second parak of Masechta Shevuos today, about 2/3 of the way into Daf Yudalad Amud Aleph, at the beginning of the parak. This parak continues to discuss Tumas Mikdash v'Kodashov. Exciting stuff. It's not the longest parak. It'll probably take about a week or so. I think even a little bit less, maybe. I think it ends on Yud base. Yes, not even that long of a parak. And then we're going to get into what everybody's really been waiting for, Shevuos. That's going to be fun. All right, we're going to start at the beginning of the parak of the Mishnah. Yedias Atuma Shtayim Shein Arba. So a quote straight out of the first Mishnah of the Masechta Shevuos. Yedias Atuma Shtayim Shein Arba. Is that verbatim? Let's see. Shevuos Atuma Yedias Atuma Shtayim Shein Arba. Yedias Atuma Shtayim Shein Arba. Verbatim. Nitma. Okay, here we go. Have just different scenarios that we're familiar with already. Nitma v'yada v'nelma mimenu atuma. Okay, a person touched a dead mouse, and he was aware that he touched a dead mouse. Then he lapsed. Then he forgot that he touched a dead mouse. V'zocher es ha-kodesh, but he knew that he's about to eat meat right now. This is kosher meat, but he had forgotten at this point that he was tamei. Alternatively, nela mimenu ha-kodesh v'zocher es atuma. Alternatively, if he was aware that he was tamei, but he lapsed on the fact that the meat was kosher. Nelmu mimenu zevoze, or he had a double lapse. He lapsed on the tuma and lapsed on the kosher meat. V'achal es hakodesh, and he ate the kosher meat v'lo yada, and he was unaware at the time that he was doing anything problematic. Umisha achal yada, but then after the fact, he realized that he ate kosher when he was tamei. Harezo be'oila v'yored, so he brings a korban ola v'yored. Okay, yesh b'idiyah b'tchila, yesh b'idiyah b'sof, v'helim be'emtza, ola v'yored. Nitma v'yada. Now this is the same exact scenario, but instead of kosher meat, we're talking about going into the Beis Hamikdash. Now, nitma, he touched a dead mouse and he became tamei. V'yada, and he was aware. V'nelma mimenu, but then he forgot. He lapsed. Tuma. He lapsed on the tuma. V'zocher hamikdash, but he knew that he was going into the Beis Hamikdash. But he forgot at that point that he's tamei. Alternatively, nela mimenu mikdash v'zocher tuma, or he was aware that he is tamei. Touched a dead mouse, he's tamei, but he was somehow unaware that he's going into the Beis Hamikdash. Or he forgot that it's a Beis Hamikdash. Nela mimenu zavoze, or he had a double lapse. He lapsed on his tumah and he lapsed on the fact that he was going to the Beis Hamikdash. Didn't realize what was flying. V'nichnas leMikdash, and he went into the Beis Hamikdash. V'lo yada, he didn't realize that he did anything problematic. Misha yotza, but only later on, yada, he realized that he went into the Beis Hamikdash when he was tamei. So there was yediyah batchila and yediyah basof, v'helim be'emtza, harei ze be'oile v'yored. So again, he has to bring a korban ole v'yored. Echar nichnas la'azare ve'echar nichnas l'tosefes ha'azar. So says the Mishnah. Now the korban ole v'yored. Right. Well, when you go into the Beis Hamikdash, when you're tamei, so this applies both to if you go into a part of the Beis Hamikdash that was originally part of the Beis Hamikdash, ve'echad nichnas l'tosefes ha'azar, or if they added on to the azara of the Beis Hamikdash, even if they added on and then you went into the annex. you will also have to bring a korban ola v'yored, because there are ways to officially expand the azara of the base. Hamikdash mosivin ala ir v'ala azaris ella, that the way to expand the city of Jerusalem or the courtyards of the temple are, right, the way is b'melech, you need the king over there, v'novi, and the prophet, v'urim v'tumim, and the urim v'tumim of the Kohen Gadol, v'sanhedrin shel shivim v'echad, and the Sanhedrin of 71, the big Sanhedrin, uv'shtei todes, and 2 korban todes, uv'shir, and with singing, ubezdin v'halchim v'shtei todes achreim, the bezdin walks, and the 2 let's say korban todas are achreim, are behind them. The Gemara is going to explain exactly what that means. V'chol Yisrael achreim, and all the rest of the Yidden behind them. Hapnimis necheles v'chitzon nesrefes. So the inner toda, which the Gemara is going to explain, so we're talking about breads from the toda, but anyways, the inner ones are eaten. V'chitzon nesrefes, the outer one is burned. Now, if the let's say temple courtyard was expanded, but they didn't have all of these accoutrements, they didn't have melech, v'novi, v'urim v'tumim, etc., 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 so then it's not an official annex, it's not an official expansion. And if somebody were to go into that expansion, that unsanctioned, improperly sanctioned expansion, when they are tamei, they would not have to bring a korban ola v'yored, because it's not really an extension. It would have to have all of these aspects, the king and the prophet, etc., in order for it to be officially recognized as an expansion that you would be chayiv for if you go into that expansion when you're tamei. Let's go weiter. Nitma ba'azore, if a person was poshet in the Beis Hamikdash, he's in the Azar, he's tahor, but then he becomes tamei when he's in the Azar. V'nelma mimenu tuma, and then he lapses on the fact that he's tamei v'zocher es hamikdash, but he's aware that he is in the holy temple. Nelam emenu mikdash, or if he lapsed on the fact that he's in the holy temple, v'zocher hatuma, but he was aware that he is tamei. Nelam mimenu zavaze, or if he lapsed on both the fact that he's tamei and that he's in the holy temple, v'shtachva, and while in the Azara he bows down, prostrates himself. Oh, shesha b'chdei shtachavaya, or waited enough time in order to prostrate. And the Gemara is going to explain, going to talk about this. Oh, ba'loi ba'arucha, or he took the long way out. Chayiv. In these cases, is chayiv korban ola v'yored b'ktsar. But if he zooms out of there, potter, then he does not need to bring a korban ola v'yored. Zoi he mitzvahs essay shabamikdash. This is a mitzvahs essay in the Beis Hamikdash of get out of there. What does Rashi say? V'yishalchu min hamachne. Right? The Apostle says, send out of the camp. So get out. This is a mitzvahs essay by the Beis Hamikdash. Shein chayav in oleo, that you would not be chayiv if you kind of get right out of there. Ve'ezui mitzvahs essay shebenida shechayav in oleo. Now, we just said that this is a mitzvahs essay by Beis Hamikdash that you are potter for. What is a similar mitzvahs essay by nida that you would be chayav for? If somebody was having bia, a fellow was having bia with a fella, and she is tehora, the amra lo, and she says to him, nitmesi, I have just become a nida, and he's currently inside of her. So what does he do? Right? Just like we talked about a person who becomes tamei when he's in the Beis Hamikdash, so we say, get out of there. So this guy's in there, and she now says, I'm a nida. So that's kind of an interesting scenario. And uferesh miyad, right? We said this is a situation of mitzvah esed that he's chayiv for. If he immediately pulls out, so then he's take chayiv for that. Chayiv mipnei sheitziyaso hanoya lo kibiyaso, because exiting has the same amount of hanoah as entering, and therefore it would be getting hanoah. It would be still considered to bia with a nida, and you would be chayiv for that. Rashi suggests that maybe you just kind of wait until you kind of settle down and are not erect anymore, and then kind of separate, and then you would not be chayiv. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, says Rabbi Eliezer, where am I? Okay, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, hasheretz v'nela mimenu. Okay, so if a person touches a dead sheretz, but then he knows that he's tamei, but then he lapses, al helim sheretz chayiv. So sure, so if he lapses and goes into the Beis Hamikdash and then realizes later, or eats kachim and realizes later, so then he's going to be chayiv carbon olive v'yorid. Ve'enu chayiv al helim mikdash. But if he's aware that he's tamei but lapses on the Beis Hamikdash, being the Beis Hamikdash, he is not chayiv for that. He's only chayiv on helim tuma, not on helim mikdash. Rabbi Akiva, says Rabbi Akiva, v'nela mimenu v'u tamei al helim tuma chayiv ve'enu chayiv al helim mikdash. Seemingly, he seems to be saying the same thing as Rabbi Eliezer. Apparently, the Gemara is going to explain the difference. I haven't gotten there yet. But it sounds like Rabbi Akiva is saying something very similar, which is that also you only chayiv for helim tuma. You're not chayiv for helim mikdash. Rabbi Shmuel says Rabbi Shmuel v'nelam shtei paimim. It says v'nelam twice in the context of korban olav yored. The chayiv al helim tuma v'al helim mikdash, to say that not only are you chayiv for helim tuma, but you're also chayiv for helim mikdash. Says the Gemara, Amar Apapa Abai, says Apapa Abai, Shtaim shein arba, shtaim shein sheish avyon. Why does the Mishnah say shtaim shein arba? It should really be shtaim shein sheish. Yedias atoma tchila vasof, yedias hakodesh tchila vasof, yedias mikdash tchila vasof. There's yedios atoma shtaim shein arba. Yedios, there aren't 4 yedios, there are 6 yedios, right? There is when it comes to Tumah, you touched the dead sheretz. You knew about it at the beginning, you forgot about it, and then you knew about it again at the end. That's 2 yediyas. Similarly, you touch a dead sheretz, you know that you're tamei, but you knew that it was the Beis Hamikdash, you forgot that now that it was the Beis Hamikdash, and then you remembered at the end, okay, this is a yediyah at the beginning, yediyah at the end. Similarly, you knew that this meat was kodshim, you forgot, and then you realized again at the end. So it's not shtaim shein arba, it's shtaim shein sheish. There are 6 scenarios, right? There's yediyah batchila basof by the tuma. There's yediyah batchila basof by hektish, and there's by the kodshim meat, and there's yediyah batchila basof by the Beis Hamikdash. So why are we saying 4? It should really be 6. U'letaimich, Abai fires back tam ne'avyon. It should really be 8. Really, you could further, you just said that there's tchila vasof by tuma, by mikdash, by kachim. Well, really, you could further break that out and say that there's yediyah tchila vasof by tuma in the context of kachim, and there's yediyah tchila vasof tuma in the context of the Beis Hamikdash, right? So there's really 8. Yediyah tchila vasof by tuma in the context of Kodshim, Yediyah Tchila Basof by Tum in the context of Mikdash, Yediyah Tchila Basof with regard to the Beis HaMikdash, and Yediyah Tchila Basof with regard to the Kodshim meat when you know that you are Tamei, right? So it should be 8. Where am I? So Haloi Kasha, that is not a question, Shem Tumah Achasi. Look, at the end of the day, Tumah is Tumah. Kilu, it doesn't matter if you touch a dead sheretz, meaning if you had Yediyah Tchil Basof when you touched a dead sheretz and then went into the Beis Hamikdash, or if you had a Yediyah Tchil Basof by the same dead sheretz and you ate kachim. Keilu, it's the same concept. You touched a dead sheretz, you knew initially, you forgot, and then you knew again. So therefore, we can just treat that as one topic. So really it's 6. Okay, fine, but still 6, not 4. And then Rav Papa actually says, you know what? Taka, they are 8. So there's Yediyah Basof by Tuma in the context of going into the Beis Hamikdash. There's Yediyah Tchila Basof by Tuma in the context of eating kachim. There's Yediyah Tchila Basof when you know you're Tameh, right? There's no lapse by Tuma, but you had a lapse by knowing that you're in the Beis Hamikdash, as well as a lapse by eating kachim meat. So it's actually 8. So why does the Mishnah say 4? Arba'e kamaisa delo maisen le lide korbin lo ka chashiv. Arba'a basraisa de maisen lide korbin ka chashiv. The answer is because, well, the Mishnah is interested in the things that you're going to, in scenarios where you're going to have to bring a korban ola v'yored. You only have to bring the korban ola v'yored when you have the idea basof, right? When there's only idea batchila, and hell and be'emtza, and there was no, right? Yeshu ba'idea batchila ve'em ba'idea basof. So that's the par, that's the sarah naisa b'fnim. It's tola. Right, but we're talking about where you have to bring a korban ola v'yored, and what's important there is the idea basof. When you have the second idea, so then that's when you have to bring the korban, and that's what we're talking about. The 4 idea basofs. Okay, for tumah in the context of mikdash, tumah in the context of kodshim, as well as mikdash and kodshim. So those are the 4 ideas that we are interested in, and those are the ones that are listed in the Mishnah. Alternatively, Rav Papa says, yes, there are 8. That's interesting. That, yes, there are 8, but actually, so this one is actually the opposite. He's saying we davka are listing the Yediyah Batchila because that's the one that's unique to this scenario. For example, Chilul Shabbos. Right? A person is accidentally Mechalel Shabbos, right? He plucks an apple off of the tree, and you tell your friend, hey, you just plucked an apple off the tree. You know that you're not allowed to do that. He says, what? I had no clue, right? No clue that was not, wow, this is news to me. No clue. He still brings a korban chatas, even though he had no clue that he did anything wrong. Generally speaking, you don't need to have a yediyah batchila in order to bring a korban. What's unique here is that you do have to have a yediyah batchila. If you didn't have a yediyah batchila by the tumah, let's say, so then it would be the sarah naisa b'chutz, right? Ein b'yediyah batchila v'esh b'yediyah basof. So sarah naisa b'chutz. So what's unique about these are davka that you only have to bring a korban when you initially knew that you were tameh or that this was kosher meat, and then lapsed, and then knew again. That's where you have to bring a korban. That's unique to this scenario. So it's davka the idea batchilas that's unique here, and that's the one those are the 4 that we're counting. The idea basof, the fact that you realize that you did something wrong and you have to bring a korban, that's not particularly unique. There's lots of those scenarios. Okay, fine. So those are the ones that we are counting. Where are we? Rav Papa asks a kasha. Nelmu mimenu hilchis tuma mau. What if he had a lapse with regard to hilchis tuma? Hey Chidami, tell me more. What about hilchis tuma? Ilem de lo yada isheretz tami tzvardeya tame zilkri berav. If he doesn't know, is a mouse tame? Is a dead mouse? If I just touched a dead mouse, is a dead mouse tame? Go open up a chumash. I don't know what parsha. Is Shmini or something? Let's see. Where's that? Vayikra Yudalf. It's probably Parsha Shmini. Probably just read it. So, open up the Chumash and read. So so not knowing basic Chumash is that's not gonna be enough. Although honestly, Lamaisa, I guess if I touch a dead mouse, does it count as touching a dead mouse if you didn't actually touch the dead mouse? Well, the shaila, I guess, is, this is good. This is Lamaisa. A few months ago, when I was in Virginia, it's in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Mice is a thing over there. Mice is a thing over there. So there was Lamaisa. I didn't touch the mouse, but I moved it and Akoponim. So so it's, I guess that would be Tumas Hessis. By a sheretz, is there Tumas Hessis by a sheretz? What's the answer to that? Those are gross. They're in the mountains over there. They get so used to having the mice that they reuse the traps. I wasn't ready for that yet. I just chucked the trap. But do you reuse the mouse traps? Like they're literally just like, oh, dead mouse. Open it, pick it up, open up the trap, like open up the spring, mouse falls into the garbage. Ready for another one. I guess you probably get used to it. I guess wherever you live, you probably have your things that you have to deal with. Anyways, where were we? Oh yeah, like moving a mouse. I think that would be tumas hesis, right? Is it b'maga uv'masa? That's the shaila. Is a sheretz mitami b'masa as well? I'm not sure. I don't remember. It must have come up. I can't remember. Hilchos Tumah are very detailed. They're very numerous. Anyways, so now go open a chumash and find out. So that wouldn't be considered a lapse. The olam the yoda betumas sheretz. So it's talking about where he knows about tumat sheretz. Uchegon dinaga bechadash, but he touched. Right, it was a sheretz. There was only the size of a lentil seed. Lo yoda keadosha imetame lo. We didn't know whether or not a dead sheretz is mitame b'ke'adosha, the size of a lentil, if it's the size of a lentil seed. So what's the halacha? The yada the mitame sheretz ba'olam yediahi. Do we say, well, since he is aware that sheretzes in general are mitame, so it would be considered a yediah? Odilma came the ke'adosha lo yada imitame lo mitame ha'alamai. Or do we say yes, but he didn't know but he didn't, right? Yes, he knows that touching a sheretz is mitame, but he touched a sheretz that it was so small, it was the size of a lentil, and he didn't know that halacha, so maybe it would be considered a helam teku ich weiß nicht. By Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, Ben Bavel she'ala le'eretz Yisrael, Ben Bavel from Babylon who came to Eretz Yisrael, v'nela mimenu Mikol Mikdash, and he knows that there's a Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash you have to be tahor, but he didn't know where the Beis HaMikdash is. Mao. Okay, what's the halacha? Aliba de man, according to aliba de Rabbi Kiva. Well, if we're talking about according to Rabbi Kiva, but Rabbi Kiva said in the Mishnah that Helam Mikdash is not a thing. So the fact that he didn't know it was the Beis HaMikdash isn't even a thing. Right? He wouldn't have to bring a korban for that anyways. Right? The bar yedia batrila halo mechayiv al Helam Mikdash. So even though Rabbi Akiva does require a yediah batrila, but by Helam Mikdash that's not a thing for him. You wouldn't be chayiv for that. Yeliba der bishmal the mechayiv al Helam Mikdash. Now according to Bishmal, you would be chayiv for lapsing about that this is the Beis HaMikdash, but halo by yediah batrila, but Bishmal doesn't require an initial knowledge. Lotzricha aliba. The Rebbe is asking according to Rebbe the by yediah batrila u'mechayiv al Helam Mikdash. So Rebbe does require a yediah at the beginning, and also is mechayiv for Helam Mikdash. V'amar yediahs beis rabush me'yediah. Also, Rebbe says that knowledge from your beis rabush, so even just learning it in cheder, is enough for you to be chayiv for that. My Kevin the yada the ika mikdash ba'olam yediah. Do we say, well, since he knows that there's a concept of a beis hamikdash, even though he doesn't know where it is, that would be enough to be considered a yediah batchila? Or Dilma came to mekomo lo yada le halami. Or do we say, yeah, but he's from Bavel, he doesn't know where it actually is? So teku, is it a halama? Ich weiß nicht. Friends, that was Daf Yud Dal of Masechta Shevuos. We started the second parak of Masechta Shevuos, going into more of the final details here about Shevuos, about Yediyah Satum Shtayim Shein Arba. This was a bit of a shorter daf after yesterday's longer daf. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.